What type of mask do you wear?
The Japanese will tell you you have three faces. The first you show to the world, the second to your family, and last you never show anyone. This popular phrase portrays every human being as guilty, putting on a mask to hide one's true self so the world sees you as somebody else. Society has pushed humanity into following this ideology, as it forces one to adhere to societal norm and allows for the optimal chance of finding success in life. To elaborate, the societal pressure in City of Thieves pushes Koya, the main protagonist's best friend, into masking his true belief in order to prove his masculinity and ranking. Furthermore, in The Great Gatsby, Myrtle Wilson allows her greedy and disillusional self dictate her persona, ultimately leaving her to be irrelevant and forgotten. Lastly, in both texts, it's prevalent that one without social status will struggle, directly causing characters to suppress their emotional impulses to achieve a social stance. This shows that in order to attain social status, one must hide their true nature under a fake facade set by society. City of Thieves takes place in World War II, in the siege of Leningrad. The novel inadvertently promotes the characters into masking their true morals to attain social status. Sex in the book is depicted as a way for men to assert their dominance over one another, in a form of displaying power and masculinity. Koya, the main protagonist's best friend, brags and belittles Lev's surrounding his experience with girls. Quote, "I got a feeling you're his type, Lev. Sonia Avanova, one of my early conquests and still a dear friend." Quote, Koya uses the word conquest. In this context, it refers to Sonia, and by using this word, Koya devalues Sonia's worth as he is implying she is an object that can be subjugated to be controlled. Further, by referring to his former partners as conquest, Koya situates himself as superior and overtly more masculine to those around him. However, upon further analysis, Koya sees women as more than people whom you make love with. During a scene where Koya and Lev discovers a small cottage where teenage sex slaves were housed, Koya's true views upon women is shown. Quote, "I turned to look at Koya. I expected him to be grinning, ecstatic about the surreal vision we stumbled across in the middle of the snowy wasteland. But he looked grim, his lips pressed together, something angry in his eyes." Quote, "This provides a clear understanding of his perception of sex. He often describes women as conquest, but still clearly sees them as human beings with dignity and value. Later, Koya announces he wants to save the slaves. However, instead of expressing his true sentiments surrounding women, he directs the fact that he wants to save them is because of his duty to Russia. He did not want Lev to look down upon him, as if he showed sentiment towards women, he presumed his masculine status would be tarnished. Koya is a prime example of a product created by societal norms, portraying the perfect man, handsome, strong, and intelligent. However, it is his true morals and character that he attempts to hide under these prestigious characteristics to maintain his alpha demeanor. In contrast to the City of Thieves, where social pressure forces Koya to hide his true nature, society in The Great Gatsby pushes Myrtle Wilson to act upon her greedy and disillusioned self, allowing her actions to be dictated in her true desires, ultimately leaves her to be forgotten and irrelevant. Quote, "I told that boy about the ice." Myrtle raised her eyebrows in despair at the shiftlessness of the lower class. "These people, you have to keep after them all the time." Quote. This quote showcases irony, as Myrtle snobbishly attempts to belittle the lower class by making degrading facial expression and rude remarks. She fails to see that attempting to portray a woman of class by acting rude only further highlights who she truly is, a lower class woman who's cheating on her husband. Furthermore, her cantankerous drive to follow her desires of becoming a woman of class leads her to her demise and the exact opposite of what she wanted. In this quotation, a moment later, she rushed out into the dusk, waving her hand and shouting, before he can move from his door, the business was over. It showcases how Myrtle dies, as she was struck by a passing car she presumed to be Tom. This is significant as it truly displays Myrtle's ignorance to reality, as she believed she could become somebody else till death. Even after being beaten by Tom, she still had faith that he was a knight in shining armor that will save her from George. After all her efforts to becoming part of the upper class, she dies, and nobody but her husband, who she despises, gives her a second thought. Through further analysis, it can be seen that Myrtle's inability to suppress her unrealistic and greedy nature leads her to her downfall, which was the polar opposite of what she thirsted to be, irrelevant and forgotten. Both in The Great Gatsby and A City of Thieves, being socially inclined is imperative in order for characters to thrive without struggle. Lev from The City of Thieves and Gatsby from The Great Gatsby realizes the dreaded fate they will face if they do not attain a social stance. However, to achieve a social stand, the two characters understand to do so, they must hold down their emotional instincts. To clarify, Lev's scene in the book has a fear of death. Lev knows if he does not suppress this fear, he will not survive and retrieve the eggs. Lev believes if he accomplishes this feat, he will become a hero in a Colin's eye and have an easier life. Quote, I never understood people who said their greatest fear was public speaking or spiders or any other minor terrors. How could you fear anything more than death? And all at once, I felt like crying. Quote, in this quote, Lev uses examples of other common fears to amplify his as he was getting ready to assassinate German troops. It showed how every inch of his body was telling him to leave the situation he was in and avoid certain death. But Lev overpowers this urge and stayed put. This quote shows us how close he is from breaking down and crying. However, using every ounce of strength he had, he was able to suppress his worst fears and instincts. In Gatsby's situation, he is seen to be infatuated and obsessed with Daisy, shown by his stalkerish action and delusional thinking. However, realizes that without social status, Daisy will never fall back in love with him, and he suppresses the urge to meet him until he gains wealth and class. Quote, he had waited 5 years and bought a mansion where he dispenses starlight to casual moths so he could come over some afternoon to a stranger's garden. In this quotation, Nick presents his astonishment to Gatsby's tenacity and determination. Gatsby held down his emotional instinct to meet Daisy until he was socially proud. Though Gatsby did become affluent due partly because of his love towards Daisy, he also was driven by the hatred of being poor, evident with his dropout from college because of his humiliation of working as a janitor to pay tuition. Both Lev and Gatsby both portrayed strong psychological breaks to hold back one's emotional impulses to achieve a social stance. City of Thieves and The Great Gatsby both told a story that gave a deeper insight to people's will to attain status. Kolya, Myrtle, Lev, and Gatsby all exemplifies that one must suppress their true nature and disguise under a fake demeanor to obtain social status. Both books reveal to the audience what it takes to prove one's status in society, the consequences when one has no psychological barriers to their desires, and the will needed to suppress emotional impulses to achieve class. Furthermore, the stories convey a notion surrounding people's persona. The society will force many to be who they are not. The Japanese says we have 3 masks: Like warriors who don their armor before battle, we must wear our mask before facing the world.